Well, greetings, Cap fans, and welcome to episode 227 of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. I'm Rick Verbanis, and I'm your host. I've got a co-host. You know his name. His name is Bob Lucius. Best gosh darn one out there. Oh, Bob. She was dressed in mourning. Yeah, first time I ever seen a black armband used as a skirt.
I have no idea what that is, but I'm intrigued.
Ah, well, that was from the TV show 227.
227? I don't even know
Yeah.
what that is.
What?
What is the
Oh yeah.
227?
227. That was it ran for 5 seasons from 1985 to 1990,
Uh-huh.
and it starred Marla Gibbs and Jackie Harry.
Okay.
Yeah, it was about these residents of an apartment complex on 227
Huh.
and in DC.
Okay.
It was a huge hit. You don't
Was it real?
remember?
What years?
1985 to 1990.
Oh, yeah, that's why.
Where were you?
I was very busy. I was at a military college for 4 of those years, and then
Okay.
like in a basic school at Quantico for the better part of the last year. So I wasn't watching a lot of TV. Didn't have a
I guess
TV.
not.
Didn't have access to television.
Yeah. And
All
you
right.
may not have been the demographic being a 20-year-old white dude
Yeah, probably.
because this was African American families.
Yeah.
So maybe that
All
wasn't on
right.
your radar, but it
Not at
was
the
a
time.
huge hit.
Yeah.
If you saw the actors that were in it, you'd be like, oh, yeah, like they're character actors that you just
Huh.
recognize. Yeah.
Wow.
Um,
I'll have to check that
but
out.
yeah, it was so well. So Marla Gibbs was. Do you remember the TV show The Jeffersons?
Of course. Yeah.
Well, she was the maid.
Oh, okay.
That actress was the maid,
All right. All right.
Marla Gibbs, and so this was her series. She was the lead,
All right.
and if you saw Jackie Harry, you would know her. Um, think of her as like Blanche from the Golden Girls,
Okay.
right? She
Yeah.
was like that,
Yeah.
you know.
Sassy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so that's what the reference was to,
All right.
and the
All
fact that
right.
yeah, she wore tight outfits.
Yeah.
Um, but I also thought that that particular quote from the series, and why am I talking about the TV series 227, Bob?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
I don't know. Take place in
Listeners,
Washington.
listeners,
I don't
are you all
know.
slapping yourselves in the head right now?
227. I don't know. I don't know. All right. Got to work with you here, folks.
Everybody right now is going, Bob, what episode number are we on right now?
Oh, is it? Who knows? I don't. I thought we were on episode like 400 like last month. So
It just feels like
it
it.
just feels like it.
Yeah, no, Bob. Do you even listen when I'm like, "Hey, it's episode 227"?
Yeah. Checks notes. Of course, I listen. Yes, hang on every word, Rick. Yeah, 227. Wow, wow,
Yeah.
that's impressive. It's an impressive
Uh,
run.
uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, I didn't even say 227. I said
Yeah,
227 specifically. Oh
yeah.
gosh, I try
Huh.
so hard.
Interesting.
And the quote I picked out, because it was about a funeral and being in mourning,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt that was the somber mood of one Steve Rogers in today's
All
issue that we
right.
are
Well,
covering.
that's fair. But I'm not going to let that bring me down, Rick. You know why? You know what I've been watching a lot of recently?
What's that?
The Love Boat.
The Love
That's the one. I sing
Boat.
that every time it comes on, and my wife's walking through the house. I regale her with that song. But I've been really sucked into the Love Boat reruns on MeTV.
Uh-huh.
Big fan of MeTV. They play, and then I watch the Watch Mash and then the Andy Griffith Show after that. If in those times,
Hmm.
I don't watch a lot of TV, but
Sounds like you do, Bob.
if she's out like she was last night, my
Hmm.
wife has the city council meetings every other week, and so I have the whole night and I just sit on the couch and watch me TV. And so I love the Love Boat because it's got all these old stars in it doing their guest appearances,
Yeah, it's great.
and
Yeah.
it's fun, right?
Hmm.
Because for folks who grew up in the late '70s, uh,
So
like
was it
being
like a
able.
Friday night or a Saturday night show?
I can't remember,
I
but
remember watching it when it was on. It
these
was
were all
like
the
a
big stars. So like I
mhm.
watched one this week and it was like a really young David Hasselhoff,
Nice.
yeah, playing like a young guy just out of college, football
Did
star.
did you have a favorite character, reoccurring character on the show?
Uh,
One of the main cast?
I really didn't. None of them really rang my bell very much.
Mm,
I was just really into the guest appearances and trying to
uh,
like remember who they were, right?
mm.
So like this David Hasselhoff, and it had the Pointer Sisters as like
Really? Yeah.
chambermaids on the ship, who just happened to like get together and like, oh look, they can sing, and get a big recording contract out of it. But it was just so cool. But my wife did not grow up in the late 70s because she's 9 years younger than me. So she knows who none of these people are. And so it has no appeal to her whatsoever.
Yeah.
So that's where I've been getting my joy lately.
I'm glad you can, hey, listen, we're all about reminiscing here, right? I mean,
Yeah.
isn't that why isn't
Yeah.
nostalgia mostly why people tune into this show because if we talk about things that remind them of their youth.
Youth,
All right.
the youth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
their youths. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks for asking, Bob. My favorite reoccurring character on Love Boat was probably Gopher.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I felt like I could connect with him more
Yeah. Because you'd like to
because you
dress in white?
well, no, but you got to remember for 8 years I was a first mate on my dad's charter boat.
Oh, right.
Yes, I was at the
Yeah.
beck and call of everybody on the boat.
Okay. Yeah. And then he went on and he ran for Congress, served several terms in Congress. So you got that
I don't
ahead of you.
remember that episode.
Yeah, I think it was after the series ended.
Oh,
But
okay.
uh, but he did. He did serve several years in Congress, several terms. So
Good for him.
sky's the limit for you, Rick.
I hear you. Bob, I want to say hello to a new member of the Patreon family. Another supporter joined the show in the last week, and this person who is a shield slinger, his name is Alex Enzenhofer. Now, interesting thing about Alex, besides his last name, which is a really cool last name.
It is cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I reach out when people join up. I reach out. I say thank you for joining. As a patron. Please send me your mailing address, and here are the perks for joining. And so Alex emails me back, and I'm going to read this to you. Hey Rick, after listening to just a few of your episodes on YouTube, I knew that I was at the right place, especially after you mentioned Jet Black on episode 221. The Rick Remender one was my adult life starting point for enjoying and collecting Captain America comics ever since. I appreciate the work you put into these podcasts and I find them very engaging as well. I don't use Facebook, but I really would like to participate in polls and questions for future guests. Would it be possible to mention current surveys or polls on YouTube in the community section? And maybe we will. We'll have to figure that out. Then he gave me his address. Where do you think he's from, Bob?
Would it be someplace in New Jersey?
No, they would be someplace in Europe.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
he's from Austria.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So oh Tom Boyd is in the UK, and now we're
Right.
we're expanding our
Yes, we
patron
are.
supporters a little further east to Austria, and so welcome aboard, Alex. We appreciate that. Now, interesting. I don't know if I ever mentioned this to you, Bob, but did I ever tell you the story about the fact that I'm probably Austrian?
No, you did not.
Okay. So my dad always said that his father was from Austria,
Okay.
came over on the boat.
All right.
And um, so when he came over, I can't remember when it was. I want to say sometime in the 1920s. It was between World War One and World War Two. Okay.
Okay.
And and then I've met my uncles, and they all talk about their dad said he was from Austria. But then one day I was working at this Italian restaurant. This is right after college. and I'm it's authentic, right? Like the head chef was from Italy,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we're having a conversation, and he goes, "Well, you're Italian," and I said, "No, no, I'm Austrian. My last name's Austrian," and he goes, "No, Verbanaz, you're Italian. I know the name. You're
Yeah.
Italian,"
Yeah.
and I'm like, "No, no, no, no. I really am Austrian." So, but then my dad had passed away
Uh-huh.
shortly thereafter, and I got um, his personal effects, right?
Yeah.
And amongst there was like the a certificate of his dad,
Uh-huh.
Giuseppe, and apparently the last name Verbanus had a Z at the end. But when they came
Uh,
over on Ellis Island, they changed it to
yeah.
an S. And then I started kind of researching. Now, the border between northern Italy and
Yeah.
southern Austria
Yeah.
moved a few times depending
Sure.
on which war
Yeah.
was going on,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And then I started looking at again the time that he came over on the boat. And at the time he came over on the boat, Italy was not exactly an ally of America.
Right. Right.
So I started thinking, I wonder if
Yeah.
he just said he was from Austria,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because did the things to go better. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I'm
Yeah.
either
Yeah.
the blonde
Yeah.
hair, blue eyed Northern Italians or
Yeah.
the blonde hair, blue eyed Southern Austrians,
Right.
is where it came from. So that's
Right. Oh, wow.
my Austria
Interesting.
story.
Yeah. You should change it back to a Z. It's just sexier.
Hmm.
Nirvana. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Maybe on the weekends. Try it
if
out.
other people wanted to learn more about cool perks like that, just go to buymeacoffee.com/cap comic fans, and you can learn more about the perks you get from joining the show. Speaking of perks, Bob. Now we have two levels if you want to be a patron, right? We have the Shield Slinger, which we talked about, and that's $5 a month, and we really appreciate that. And then we have a Super Soldier, which is at $10 a month, and we capped it at 10, right? And one of our former patrons at the Shield Slinger level, when he joined over on Buy Me a Coffee, he increased it to a Super Soldier level. Now, one
Yes.
of the extra perks you get for being a super soldier is you get to be a guest on the show
Mm-hmm.
once a year. And we're going to have that next episode. So, Aaron Paul,
Mm.
super soldier himself, and self diagnosed as the number one Sam Wilson fan,
Yep.
is going to be joining us next episode.
Yes. All right. Well, that's awesome. I that's for me to have another person for you to direct your rage at. That would be awesome. Uh,
Thanks, Bob. Well, I don't have so much as rage is more of
this is a
a
disappointment.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, we're
Uh,
gonna love to have Aaron because when we have that three-way conversation, there's a lot of energy and he brings a lot of expertise, a lot of knowledge about Sam to the show, which will be helpful because right now we don't know what to expect from this
well,
movie.
yeah, well, that's just it. Like, we didn't even say what we were doing.
Oh, you're right.
We're doing a
Yeah,
review of the Captain America Brave New World movie.
yeah,
And you're like, wait, whoa, this is supposed to be comic books, right? Yeah,
yeah.
well, you know what? Listen, when a movie comes out every 4 years, we're going to cover it.
We're covering it when a Captain America movie comes out. Absolutely,
Yeah.
and this looks to be a biggie. Talk of the town. And man, it looks from the I don't know minute and 20 seconds that I've seen, looks pretty darn exciting. So I think this is going to be a fun experience for all three of us to be able to talk about our experiences and impressions of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, by the way, this isn't the first time we've done a review. We
Mm-hmm.
did the Falcon and Winter Soldier because it remember that 6 episodes,
Right?
and we had a third person on the show, and we did this way back. You ready for this, Bob? Episode 18, and then we did it for all
Holy
six
cow!
episodes. So we did
Yeah.
episodes 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28. So
Mm-hmm.
the even numbers between 18 and 28. If you want to go check those out, where Bob and me and a third person came on the show and talked about gave our reviews, our reaction really to the Falcon and Winter Soldier. So, and by the way, my wife and I are starting to rewatch those just to be ready so that when we go to watch Brave New World, we have all that backstory still kind of fresh in our
Mm-hmm.
mind.
Oh, I wish I had time for that, Rick, but I have a lot of Love Boat episodes to get through. You a singer, Rick, by chance? Can you
I am
sing?
not.
You don't have a.
You've heard me sing on this
Well,
show.
you
That's
got a
as
better
good as it
voice than I
gets.
do. Yeah, but I did the episode I watched last week. I had Isaac trying to sing, and here's the synchronicity. Right after was Andy Griffith's show, and it was Barney Fife trying to sing. Two shows about singing, and I was like,
Were
"What the?"
either of them good?
Neither of them are good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Bob, I I'm also because I know you've proven how observant you are.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm
Do you
on it.
notice anything different about me right now, Bob?
Did you get your head polished?
No, Bob.
What?
The microphone actually now has
Oh
the
yeah.
little
Okay.
the P, you know,
The fuzzy
uh,
thing.
yeah, I can't remember the name of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
The spit
yeah, yeah, yeah.
guard.
It's supposed to stop the kind of
Okay. Yeah.
sounds and things like that. Yeah, it only took us 227 episodes for me to finally get one.
Didn't it come with it?
No, did
Like
yours?
yes.
You have one?
Yes, I've got one right here, man.
Oh, because I got it. I got an extra one that I was going to mail you.
Yeah.
Look,
That's why I can't bebop. I can't
oh,
scat.
I have an extra one here. Ah, oh well.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe that's why
I
I don't
thought you
hear so.
sounded extra silky smooth tonight, but
Mm,
that's why.
now you know.
Yeah.
Now you know. My p's are all hidden.
Right. It's
Ah.
probably all for the better.
Oh boy, should we just get to the
All right,
today's
let's do it.
episode? All right.
People are waiting and waiting patiently.
All right, so I'm going to grab off my spinning rack.
Mm-hmm.
Dun, dun, dun. So we are covering today, Bob, Captain America and the Falcon, issue 176. And we are starting a brand new long tail story. So typically the second Wednesday of every month, that episode is a continuation of our long tail story. So previously we did the whole story that led up to this, right? It was the Secret Empire,
Right.
and we did that. We did all was it 6 parts? Yeah, 6 parts.
Yeah.
So those were episode 201, 205, 209, 215, 218, and 222. So we did those panel by panel. And then now we're going to pick up and continue with the next arc, which is basically Steve becoming Nomad. I don't want to give anything away, but that's what happens.
Okay. Good summary.
Do you want to take the listeners through the cover?
Sure. Yeah. So we are, as you said, at issue 176 of Captain America and the Falcon. And we are glimpsing something profound going on. So we see Steve Rogers attired in a two-piece suit. And the thing that sort of gets me here is he's got his shirt unbuttoned down to his basically his navel. So that is clearly a callback to the 1970s. But in the room he's in, and he seems to be striding with his head down, looking somewhat angry, striding toward the reader. This may be someplace in the Avengers Mansion. It seems to be because the room that they're in is a tiled floor with lots of computer banks and whiz bang gizmos lining the walls. And we see Thor, and we see Falcon, we see Sharon Carter, and we see Iron Man. And Steve is basically throwing his shield and his Captain America uniform to the ground. And we hear Thor with his hand raised, calling out to Steve, saying, "Hold, Steve Rogers, thou knowest not what thou dost." And Cap responds, Rick,
Wrong, Thunder God. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm renouncing my Captain America identity forever.
Oh my gosh. So this, as I said, this is a profoundly disturbing cover to anybody who is a Captain America fan. And here it is on the spinner rack waiting for you at 25 cents. So there you have it, Rick.
Yeah, it's also really offensive to anybody who's not a fan of a nose on Iron Man's helmet.
True enough. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a
that's
honking
just
nose there.
that's just weird looking. And the art was by John Romita Sr. So that is a classic, classic image. And I when we did March Madness a couple years ago, we did the favorite covers.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe this made it pretty far in that. I
Hmm.
should have looked it up, but yeah, it went pretty far. I think this was a one of those covers that everybody was like, yeah, it's a classic cover.
Mm.
So this had a cover date of August 1974, but if you were getting it off the stands, it was May 7th in 1974. So the creative team, we are continuing with most of the creating team from the last story arc, and that is writer Steve Englehart, penciler Sal Buscema, inker Vinnie Coletta, colorist Linda Lessman, letterer Artie Simic, and editor Roy Thomas. You know, whenever I hear Lessman, I always think of WKRP
Les
in
Nessman?
Cincinnati,
Les Nessman. Yeah, right.
right?
Yes.
Oh my God, the humanity. All right, I'm going to get out my readers
Yes.
and open up my copy. 25 cents gets you this back in the day, Bob. And we open it up to a pretty dramatic cover, splash page, opening splash page, and just one big panel. And it's Captain America in spotlight, holding his shield in his left hand, with his both his fists clenched, with his eyes closed, screaming to the heavens, Captain America must die. And then it reads, sure, we know you've heard that before, true believer, but have you ever heard it from Captain America? When they talk about Cap classics in the years to come, this is one of the ones they'll mention first. And they weren't kidding. That's not hyperbole. Even they knew at the time this was going to be a classic story.
Yep.
And it comes courtesy of, and then we went through the creators. Turn the page, and there's Cap on top of a roof with a dark sky, and he's in a city landscape behind him, and he's starting to go on a monologue. Captain America must die. Captain America must die. So many have tried it to bring it about, but only I can do it. Or can I? Have I the guts, or even the right, to destroy a symbol of 33 years standing? A living legend? Blast it! I'm no legend. I'm a man. Or am I a muppet? Only some of our listeners will get that reference.
Yes.
At least once I was a boy, a skinny, gawky kid, just out of high school, born and raised in Manhattan, so I knew all about the world. Went to the movies a lot and never missed the newsreel. I knew the Nazis were rotten from the minute I set eyes on them. They were suppressing, then murdering the people of Europe, weren't they? They had spies here, didn't they? I knew where my duty lay. Steve Rogers, all of 18, had to become a soldier. I hit Whitehall Street the next morning, and we take basically go through the story of him being turned down for rejected 4F, and Steve going on wanting to somehow make it in. I wish we could take you, son. I really do. Pretty soon, a guy without a uniform is going to feel pretty funny around these parts. Sarge, you gotta accept me. I'll do anything. I couldn't help overhearing, mister. If you're really serious about wanting to play a part in all this, I am, sir. I don't care about what I look like. I just want to fight for my country. Would you volunteer for an experiment? Yes, yes, yes. How many times did I have to tell them, I wondered. But that was enough. That evening, they took me to a sinister looking curio shop. I remember feeling no fear and marveling at myself for it. Maybe because it was so unreal, the wrinkled old crone who placidly tended the store tended it with an eye toward keeping its incredible secret from ever reaching access ears. It was an adventure beyond compare. And by the way, inside the curio shop is the old lady we're used to seeing, not being seen here as anything but an old lady, but we know it's disguise, and she's holding a gun under the counter. It was an adventure beyond compare, just like in the movies. Only Bogart and Flynn were nowhere around. The audience, all high-ranking officials, was here to watch me, and we see them from the glass observation tower. And then we take the readers through the steps. Right, he's tied to a table, and then he's being experimented on. He's being injected, and we have the Dr. Erskine, who is not referred to as Dr. Erskine here. I felt unreal. I felt adventurous, and I sure as taxes felt awed. Don't be afraid, son. You are about to become of America's saviors. My name is Professor Reinstein, and this syringe is the crowning achievement of all my years of hard work. The serum for the super soldier. Just relax. There. It is done. Now, to watch the reaction while I bombard your body with Vita rays. Suddenly, for the second time, I was born. It works! It works! He's growing, changing, millions of cells forming at incredible speed, raw power surging through the new muscles. But unseen by us all. What is it, Bob?
It looks like somebody sneaking up and reaching into their jacket pocket for something.
Hmm. Very reminiscent of the Chosen story we just did, right?
Indeed.
There was somebody in the laboratory with
Mm-hmm.
sinister eyes. Behold, the first of the super agents whose mental and physical ability will make them a terror to spies and saboteurs. We shall call you Captain America, son, because, like you, America shall gain the strength and the will to safeguard our shores. Death to the dogs of democracy!
Perfect. Pitch perfect.
And he shoots him. Professor Reinstein, what? You killed him, you skunk! And he spikes him,
Pow!
which lands him back into that little,
The
I don't
Vita
know,
Ray machine,
a
right?
wall. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and he gets zapped. I didn't mean to hit him so hard, but I didn't know my own strength, and I wasn't sorry. Nothing left of him but charred ashes, a fate he well deserved. You're the only one now, Rogers. The only super soldier there will ever be. I'm going to pause here, Bob. Uh, I understand Steve Englehart only had a few pages, like
Right.
4 pages, to kind of take us back through uh, the birth of Captain America.
Right. Right.
Heck,
Right. Right.
heck, heck, we've seen it done less, right? We've seen it done in 1 page.
Yeah.
Um, but he took some liberties here.
Oh, how so, Rick?
Well, Professor Reinstein instead of
Mm-hmm.
Erskine.
Right.
Now, I know you're itching to tell the listeners the difference.
Well, I mean, Reinstein was, I think eventually retconned to be the code name for Dr. Erskine.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Indeed. Um, and also, I don't recall Dr. Erskine or Professor Reinstein. calling him Captain America and naming him that, and because he was an experiment,
Right.
and there were supposed to be others after him, and when he was realized he was going to be the only one, then they were like, "Well, we got to do something with you, so we're gonna make you Captain America."
Sure. Yeah. Right. They've clearly condensed the whole experience down to, as you said, a couple pages. We're to summarize it for the reader. But we've seen this expanded into a many month experience for young Steve Rogers before he even got to the laboratory in the curio shop.
Yep. Nothing else in my life, before or since, has ever even come close to that moment. For the first time, I fully realized what had been done for me. Fight for America? Man, I was Captain America. And then we cut to a double page splash. Very, very simple. White background, or if you have an old comic like me, uh, kind of a yellowish background. And you see um, Captain America fighting Nazis during World War II. Then you see Bucky. You see Red Skull. You see the Avengers finding a frozen Steve Rogers. You see Falcon, Sam Wilson. You see Sharon Carter, and then brings you up to last issue where in the Secret Empire, number one kills himself in front of Cap. And all the only words on the page, and you have Cap also standing there with his head down and his hand over his head, looking sullen. And he says, "But so much has happened since then." I don't know if it's an homage to Jim Steranko, but has that,
Hmm.
I think, going for it.
Yeah, it does actually.
Not in the same league, though. Just
No, no,
no.
but
And
that'll
then
sell.
next page and six panels, and we see Thor coming up on the roof to talk with Cap. I've seen America rocked with scandal, seen it manipulated by demagogues with sweet, empty words, seen all the things I hated when I saw those newsreels. Captain America. Huh? Oh, Thor. Captain America. Long hast thou stood here atop Avengers Mansion, in somber solitude. Yet now, yon tempest tossed heavens do call to the God of thunder. As doth thy plight, I come hence to have speech with thee. In truth, it confoundeth me to overhear the cry of death for thy masked identity. For it is thus that thou dost do battle. And to one Asgardian born, there be nothing more glorious. To strike for the right, with one's blood roaring and one's prowess the measure for survival, as we too have so often done with the Avengers. Why, 'tis then that a man be most fully alive. 'Tis then that true nobility will out. I wish I could be as certain, Thunder God, but since I returned to life after being frozen in that ice floe, well, I haven't seen as much nobility as I once did. I'm Captain America after all, not Captain Asgard. Down here, things aren't that simple. I take no offense at thy words, Avenger. Thou dost battle within thyself, and no one save thee may say whether 'tis glorious or nay. My fellowship shall be thine if e'er thou hast need. And he flies off. Cap watches him fly away, thinking to himself, nobility. How much of that came out in me when I stole the electron gyro? I had to do it to save my name, but now I'm not as worthy of having the name. And then he walks away like Charlie Brown with his head down.
Somebody just pulled his football.
Yeah. Boy, that stealing that electron gyro really is really bothering him.
Yeah, it's eating him up inside. Even though he had a good rationale for it, at least he thought he did at the time. It went against his moral grain.
I guess I've learned a lot since the days I reveled in my enemies' deaths. And there's Iron Man, one of the skinnier Iron Mans I've ever seen.
He's dieting for sure.
Yeah. And he's got his arms crossed. Still brooding, eh? Maybe what you need is some solid advice from an Iron Man. Maybe I do, Shellhead. Maybe I do. Then listen, friend. Very few people on this crazy planet are lucky enough to have the advantages you and I have. That obligates us to use those advantages. For example, remember when we saved the wasp's life by rescuing her doctor from his subterranean captors? What if we hadn't been around? When was that, Bob?
Back in Avengers 14.
For that matter, what if you hadn't been around during World War II? Our boys did fine against regular rifles, but who took on the Nazi death rays they couldn't fight? Turn the page. And during your entire career, you've never turned down a chance to raise money for charity. Right. For my entire career, I've done almost nothing except try, in as many ways as I could, to help my fellow man. And what happened? Lots of them turned on me, actually accepted the half truths and lies of the secret empire's ads, and believed me a vigilante. My help was always appreciated at the time, but over the years, everybody started taking it for granted. I guess it just lost its meaning for those people. But it doesn't have to lose meaning for you. Suddenly, what happened?
Wham! Falcon storms through the door.
And Jarvis is trying to stop him. Master Falcon, wait, please. I've got no time to hang around going through protocol, Jarvis. I'm going in. Okay, partner. What's with you slipping out of Washington without telling anyone where you were heading? And what's this I hear about you wanting to quit? And then who else shows up?
Oh my gosh, it's Sharon and Peg.
Uh-oh, love triangle. Now, if you remember, Peggy, who is older,
Uh-huh.
and she suffered with amnesia for a while,
Yes, she did.
but now she has her memories back,
She does.
and she thinks that her and Steve are still an item.
Yes.
She has no idea that her younger sister, who later retconned to be cousin, is currently in
Yeah.
love with Steven and vice versa.
Yeah.
Peggy and Falk were looking everywhere for you, Cap. They even woke me up. And then Peggy says, I still don't understand why the Falcon went to you, Sherry. But it was lucky you thought to try here. Yeah. Sharon's like,
Uh,
shut up, Falk. Cap, what's going on? No, 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 Stam, don't ask that question. Well, you saw most of it, Falk. But there's one part, the part in the White House, I can't tell anybody about. Yeah, the authorities put a lid on it too. Still, whatever went on in there, how could it send you off the deep end like this? You're the together member of the team. I'll never forget the first time we met. You've been switched into another body by the Cosmic Cube and trapped on a desert island with a bunch of killers called the Exiles. When was that?
that was back in Captain America 117, Rick.
But you weren't sweating it at all. Since Redwing and I have been trapped too, you started right in to teach me the acrobatics and combat skills I need to fight beside you. And before we got off that goofy island, you molded me into the man I'd always wanted to be, ignoring your own problems. You made me the Falcon. Nothing else in my life, before or since, has ever come close to that moment. Turn. Oh, wow, we gotta get through 4 pages here. Oh, by the way, the Marvel value stamp in this one is
Iron Man.
Iron Man with a nose.
Nice.
From then on, well, I've idolized you. Tried with all my strength and soul to become what you already are. You can't tell me what you saw in the White House, and I can't tell you how much a thrill it was to meet you again when we fought against Diamond Head. Then, when you came to me weeks later and asked if I wanted to be your permanent partner, and before I could answer, We had to save Harlem from a destruction at the hands of Modoc. Man, I knew that somebody up there wanted us to work together. It was like really living the events that would later be legends, dig? Everywhere I looked, I saw more omens. Like our next baddie being another dude with a weird head. We were meant to be heroes, Cap. We are heroes. And heroes are special people, because they're a public example of what's right. As a Falcon, I've inspired a lot more kids to keep it together than in my other identity. What's his other identity, Bob?
Well, he is a social worker, Rick.
Cap. That holds for all of America, as well as Harlem. You're a man who can lead people. Am I, Falk? I was innocent of the charges brought against me, but so many others weren't. And they were all supposed to be examples of what's right, too. How can people trust heroes anymore, and how can I blame them? Now, what is he referring to there, Bob?
Uh, I'm assuming he's referring to Moonstone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Moonstone was the fake hero in the
Mm-hmm.
last story arc. Maybe hero worship does as much harm as good. Dig it. If there are both good and bad heroes, and if the good dudes drop out, hero worship would do nothing but harm. People always want good heroes, man. Give them Captain America. Cap, I don't know how you can even be talking like this. Have you taken leave of your memory too? Politicians come and politicians go, but America is still the greatest country on this grand green earth. Sure, we've had scandals, but we've exposed them publicly and gotten back on the right track. There's nothing wrong with us, at least no more than any other point in history. I know it sounds corny, Cap, but you're more than just an example. You're a symbol of the country that's given everything it has to light the torch of liberty throughout the world. All right, you go, Peg. And we cut to the next page, and there's a nice half page splash of Cap holding up the American flag as he's going through a battle. For nearly 200 years, the spirit of freedom has never been forgotten here. And for that reason, countless men and women crushed under the brutal heel of totalitarianism have been able to keep alive their dreams of liberation. This is bigger than you or any other individual, Cap. It's bigger than all of us. But you symbolize all of it in your own way, and you're the only one who does. Sherry told me how that fake Captain America tried to steal your identity because of what you represent. So you fought him, tooth and nail, and now you say you'll voluntarily let it go? When was that, Bob?
That was back in the Captain America 153 to 156 story arc when he fought the Cap of the 1950s and Jack Monroe.
What you really meant to say, Bob, was no, that was in episode 6, where we covered that, issues 153 through 156. So if
Yeah.
anybody wants to go back to the 50s Cap story that Steve Englehart did, you can read that. And I don't know how we did it, Bob, but we got through 4 issues in an hour and 14 minutes.
Right. Yeah. That was crazy days.
Back in episode 6.
Yeah.
I'm scared to listen to something that far back. Think about your name. It's not Daredevil or Mr. Fantastic or anything like that. It's Captain America. Captain America. Just think of what those words mean. Lots of people fight crime or provide inspiration, but only you do it for the United States of America. That's just one problem with that argument, Peggy. America is not this single entity you're talking about. It's changed since I've taken my name. There was a time, yes, when the country faced a clearly hideous aggressor and her people stood united against it. But now, nothing's that simple. Americas have many goals, some of them quite contrary to others. In the land of the free, each of us is able to do what he wants to do, think what he wants to think. That's as it should be. But it makes for a great many different versions of what America is. So when people the world over look at me, which Captain America am I supposed to symbolize? And then there's an image of the United States map and Cap floating heads, right? And Cap's floating heads in the center, large. But there's a bunch of different people around him, different nationalities. Interestingly enough, only one is a woman of the six.
Oh yeah.
And now, please, I'd really like to be alone. Whatever you say, partner. And hey, I'm sorry we busted in on you before. I guess maybe the last thing you needed was all of your friends laying their wraps on your head. Nevertheless, that voice coming through the wall, the vision. Nevertheless, Captain America, I must have words with you. I know of your quandary and have only this to say. Ask yourself if Captain America can turn away from a life of adventure. Now, you will have your requested solitude once Miss Carter leaves you. Darling, I'm going, Steve, but you know that whatever you decide, I'm with you all the way. I fell in love with the man under the mask, and if Captain America were never seen again, I'd still have that man. Sharon. Shh. As she pulls him in, and they lock lips, Bob.
Yeah, there's it looks to be partially open mouth, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, Bob.
Risque seven A's.
She turns to go, then, but he clasps her hand, spinning that golden moment into many. They both know that when their parting ends, there will be nothing for him to do but decide. In the end, of course, that time does come. So, that's it. I listened to them all, hoping with all my heart to hear some viewpoint I hadn't considered, and I didn't. They were all right in their own ways, but none of it matters because they all missed the central point. The government created me in 1941, created me to act as their agent in protecting our country. And over the years, I've done my best. I wasn't perfect. I did things I'm not proud of. But I always tried to serve my country well. And now I find that the government was serving itself. I just don't understand. I just don't understand. He reaches for the door. Everything else that's happened, everything else, I could take, roll with, and pass on by the way I always have. And we turn to the last page, which is a 2/3 page splash up close. But before we see the up close, we see the back of him opening up the door, and everybody who just spoke with him is all waiting out in the other room. He steps towards his friends. Lord knows the decision I made here tonight will certainly affect the world as much as it affects me. But I'm the one who has to be or not be Captain America, the one who makes him live or die. And I'm the one who's seen everything Captain America fought for become a cynical sham. I've asked myself if Captain America must die, and if I had the courage to carry out my verdict. The answer to both questions is yes. Okay, folk, we grant you that this has not been your typical tale of action and intrigue, but it was our purpose to have you share everything in Cap's head on this, the most momentous night of his life. Only now can you truly and completely comprehend the incredible, unexpected events of the days to come. Next issue, more action than you can shake an empty cow at, with the shocking return of not one, but two Lucifers. And the Falcon must face them alone. Dun, dun, dun.
That's some crazy stuff, Rick. Folks must have been shocked when they saw this.
Yeah, it's a good point because I think back in 1974, have we seen Steve give up the Cap identity before then? Was it a trope at that point?
No, it hadn't been a trope at that point.
Right. So
Yeah.
this would have been shocking.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of used to it now, right? Every now and again, he gets fed up and goes to find himself, gets on his motorcycle, goes to find himself. But this was all new.
Overall, I like the story. I think it was a good pace. Um, I found it interesting that Steve Englehart felt the need to reminisce as much as he did. You know, like Avengers 14, and
Huh? Yeah.
this story, and like each character would come in and say it, well, remember this happened and remember this happened. And I guess I guess it makes sense. I mean, I guess if we were talking to somebody that we loved and cared about, and they were going through um, some sort of inner turmoil, big decision, we probably would bring up some past, like, well, hey, remember the good times, remember the important things that you accomplished. So maybe that's why you did it.
It's reminiscent to me of I don't know if you remember, it was the Captain America, like the album issue, which was 112, when basically Captain America's bullet riddled uniform was fished out of the river, and Iron Man's reminiscing about all of Cap's exploits.
Mm,
And it has that
yeah,
similar sort of feel in this issue where I think it serves a useful purpose, right? Because we're talking about, like, all right, this is the Cap mythos so far. Now,
hmm,
of course, it extends and includes a lot more, but up until then, this was it. So this is what he's giving up. This is what he stood for. This is what he's accomplished, and it has led him to this place. And I also think, from a writer's perspective, it saved him a lot of time,
yeah, right,
right? So,
yeah, yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Uh, okay, so Bob, you get to go first. Do you have a favorite panel?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I do. So I'm working off a digital version, but it is in his origin story
Mm.
when they apply the Vita rays. And there's that 3-panel sequence that shows Steve Rogers from, the torso and head of Steve Rogers being hit with the Vita rays. And he says, Vita rays, suddenly for the second time, I was born. And I like those 3 panels because it shows the intensification of the Vita rays striking Steve Rogers. And in the first panel, we see almost all of his chest and his face, and then progressively, the Vita rays begin to bathe him in its power. And I think that's just a nice use of color and lines, and to show this process unfolding. So I think from an aesthetic viewpoint, I like these 3 panels.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
How about yourself?
it's not the last page. It's the second to last page. I take that back.
Okay.
Um, so it's the one where Sharon and Cap are holding hands as she's walking away, and I like everything about this. Where they're basically like she's as far away as she could be, but he doesn't want to let go, and she doesn't want to let go of each other's hands. And I like where she said where it says they both know that when their parting ends, there will be nothing for him to do but decide, and uh, that this they're spinning that golden moment into many. So they're
Mm.
locking eyes, they're holding hands,
Hmm.
um, and it's a nice moment,
Yeah.
and that moment didn't need to exist for this story to move on, but I think it needs to exist for us to understand their feelings for each other and how important they are to each other. And so I really appreciate this panel.
Yeah, and that's a good choice. It shows that tender moment, that personal moment between Steve and Sharon, and we don't get to see a lot of those at this era. Usually, it's one or the other, pining away for each other or talking about the importance of duty, and so it's nice to see those moments. Something we won't really get to see a lot of in Steve's personal relationships until much later under different writers.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice. And how about a T-shirt?
I'm putting the cover on.
Ooh,
That's a
nice.
great cover, and I want the whole cover. I want the logo, the trade dress, the Comics Code Authority. I want the whole cover as
Wow.
on my T-shirt. I think it's just a classic image. Um, it's colorful. It has multiple heroes. It has action that draws you in. Uh, if you're if you weren't reading Captain America at this time and this you were walking by and you're looking at the different comics and you saw this one, it drew you in. And chances are you may have picked up a Cap comic you otherwise may have never done.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember picking this one up off the spinner rack. So
Really, brand
yeah.
new?
I think it was one of the earliest ones that like my dad had bought me.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't even know if I read it at the time.
Hmm.
Yeah. But I remember, finding it again when I was a little bit older, and I got into comic books. So
Very cool.
yeah.
All right, how about you? What are you putting on a T-shirt?
Well, I'm gonna go. It's at the end of Falcon's discussion with Steve. It's in fact the last panel that Falcon is featured in that discussion, and it's like around page 13 or so. I think it's the far right of the top three last Falcon Cap discussion panels, and he says, "Dig it. If there are both good and bad heroes, and if the good dudes drop out, hero worshiping will do nothing but harm. People will always want good heroes, man. Give them Captain America. That's what I want on my T-shirt,
All right.
right? I
I
want
can see it.
Falk with that look on his face, with his fist clenched, and I want those word bubbles above his head because that's what we want.
We do. We want people we can trust and appreciate and
We want good
respect.
heroes, right? And I mean,
Yeah.
if the good guys drop out, then you know what do we got? What are we left with, right? We need folks like Captain America.
Indeed. All right, Bob, what's going in your time capsule?
All right. Well, I'm going to, you briefly sort of touched on this with the Reinstein Erskine, discussion. I'm going to go with the super soldier serum as it's portrayed in this issue because,
Hmm.
we discussed this way back in our one of our retcon episodes. I can't remember which one, Rick, but that shouldn't come as a surprise to you. But we did talk about how the components of the super soldier serum process unfolded over time
Mm-hmm.
from when it was simply an injection back in the day to when it became an oral formula
Mm-hmm.
during the Tales of Suspense run, and I think maybe in 109. And then they added, back in the syringe until finally it came to maturation under Byrne and Stern, or Stern and Byrne, right? With
Mm-hmm.
their finally the culmination of that process as a three-step process that had the oral serum administered earlier, followed by the injection, followed by the Vitarays in issue 255. And that's pretty much been set since. So back in 176, we simply see the injection in the Vitarays. And then there was only one more origin telling between that issue and that quintessential 255, and that was by Roy Thomas in issue 215, and he just had the oral serum in that issue. So we're still on the road, but this is a key landmark on that road to finally nailing down the super soldier serum process.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, it
Yeah,
deserves to go in the time capsule. And listeners, if you have not listened to a really cool two-parter top 10, we did top 10 other Cap retcons. We did part one and part two, and I think we get into the origin there, right?
we do. Yeah, we have a
Yeah,
lot of discussions around the origins.
yeah. So that's in episodes 84 and 89. So definitely check that out.
Yeah. And how about yourself, Rick? What's going in your time capsule?
Well, Bob, I'm going to have to go with that double page spread here because Cap says, but so much has happened since then. And it takes us up to the last issue where number one from the Secret Empire shoots himself.
Spoiler
So,
alert.
so we know, therefore, where this is in time,
Yeah.
right? Like
Right. Yeah.
it doesn't go past that,
It doesn't go past that.
right? So,
Right.
um, and also I find it really interesting that Cap was wearing a white tuxedo when he was frozen.
I, I must have missed that. I gotta. Oh
So
yeah, that's fancy.
it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it has that whole disco era.
Yeah. And Sal Buscema likes to draw characters with their mouths open,
You're right. Yeah,
and not just a little.
yeah, yeah. They're always like
Yeah,
yelling or in shock or.
yeah, yep. So anyway, that's going in my time capsule.
Yeah,
All right.
excellent choice.
Now, so again, this is part of our long tail story. So make sure you come back the second Wednesday of every month, and we will do continue this particular story as we go on. And so I think the next one is going to be episode 231. Uh, and and we'll see if Bob understands when I say 231 instead of 231, and if he picks up on that.
I'm gonna put a sticky on my computer here if I could
Yeah.
find a sticky.
Oh,
So
and Bob, I don't know if I mentioned this in the last episode. Maybe I mean not. I mean the beginning episode. I know we said we're going to have Aaron Paul next episode
right.
to talk about do our reaction to the movie.
Yeah.
But I didn't mention, bad on me, that we might be doing it live on YouTube.
Oh right. Yeah.
So we have to figure this out, and we don't have a lot of time to figure it out. But if you haven't gone to our YouTube channel, make sure you check that out. The link is in the show notes, so you can always click on that, and you'll end up going there. But it is youtube.com// at the little at symbol,
Mm-hmm.
Captain America comic book fans, right? So it's pretty easy to find. And we have it's a really cool. I mean, we have 278 videos right now on there, right? So if you're looking for things to, in categories, we have them set up into playlists. So just click on playlists, and we have all of our audio podcasts are on there. But we also have when we started doing this last year, we started doing the videos, right? So we have panel by panel dramas. All those are underneath one. We have our specials, which are like our top 10 lists and so on. We have our recaps, which are the ones where we don't go through panel by panel, but just kind of talk about the story. And of course, we have our interviews, and we even put the the long tail series in their own. So we have Streets of Poison, uh, 7-part series in one. We have the Secret Empire 6-part series in one. So anyway, you can go on there. But what we haven't done yet, Bob, is do a live video. And if everything goes well, we'll try to do it on this particular end. And so um, look for an announcement on that, but it will be on Sunday, February 16th at 12 noon Eastern time. So if you watch the movie Brave New World on Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, whatever, and you want to hear us knuckleheads talk about it, join the show noon on Sunday the 16th, and there will be a ability to go into the chat and ask questions, and we guarantee everybody who is a patron of the show, if you support the show, that your question will be asked and answered on the show.
But for the love of all that's holy, if you have not seen the movie, do not accidentally turn into this show.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Or if you have no intention of seeing the movie
yes.
and you just want to hear us knuckleheads talk about it,
Yeah, then you pop in.
yeah, then pop in. Uh, we'll see. Fingers crossed. We
Yeah,
got we got to figure out how to do this. All right, Bob. As always, fun rapid cap with you.
it is. It is. And I cannot wait till next week.
All right. He's Bob Lucius. I'm Rick Verbanis. And if you don't mind, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. Do subscribe to us on YouTube. That is great. And give us a thumbs up. If you're on Apple, give us a 5-star review. If you're on the Facebook pages, we'd love hearing your comments. And of course, you can comment on any of our platforms. We get a lot of comments on the YouTube page as well. Um, so do that because we really appreciate hearing from you. And as always, thanks for listening to another episode of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. And for that reason, countless men and women crushed under the brutal heel of total totalitarian. I can totalitarianism.
Totalitarianism.
Yeah, that too.
That's the one.
And for that reason, countless men and women crushed under the brutal heel of totalitarianism.
I, my I had this girlfriend years ago, and her dad. I lived in a town called Aliso Viejo, and and he couldn't say Aliso Viejo to save his life. He even came out to visit. He could not say that Aliso Viejo. He could say it,
uh,
but the other word he couldn't say was peculiar.
oh, peculiar.
Yeah,
Okay.
just peculiar. He'd always be like peculiar, peculiar, but just and it would just get so wrapped up he couldn't say it.
It's. I think if I could, if I said it without reading it, it would do better,
Yeah,
right? It's to totalitarianism,
totalitarianism. Yeah,
totalitarianism,
yeah,
totalitarianism,
yeah.
totalitarianism. God.